Hi guys, we're back with a few Lightroom tips for you, and we're gonna start right away with the first one. I'm gonna talk a little bit about lens correction. Especially when you import your raw images into Lightroom. If you're a beginner, most of the time you don't know about that. Your image might not be that straight or that correct in terms of optics, in terms of your lens. And Lightroom has got a very interesting option for that, so that you can correct it. What happens is that Lightroom will automatically detect your camera model, your lens model, and make corrections for you to that. Look at that. I'm here. We will work on this tab here, and we will go into lens corrections. You will see this here. And generally you will have those things turned off. Let's forget about chromatic aberration. We will not care about that right now, but you have this option, enable profile correction. When I click on this, look what happened. Kind of you have the impression that the image was kind of distorted. So that's what happened when you shoot with your lens. So Lightroom will automatically correct this when you activate it. When you look at this here, my camera make is Canon, my lens and focal length and so on, and this will be done for you automatically. And as a beginner, it's important you know that. As a photographer, if you use Lightroom, you have to be aware of this, so that you do that with most, not to say all of your images when you load it in Lightroom. Let's go to the next one. Okay, in this one I'm gonna show you a very interesting tip to have a little bit more information about the image you are working with in Lightroom. To have information about your image, you just go on your keyboard and press I. Press the little I. You will see you will have the name of the file, the kind of file it is, the type of file, if it's JPEG, and so on and so forth. Right now you can see it's a raw file, the date it was shot, and you will have the time also, and the dimension of the image. If I press I again, I will have my exposure settings. For example, that was shot at 1/60th of a second at f22 and ISO 100. By pressing I again, I will go out of this. Okay, now let's get to the next one. Okay, as strange as that may seem, sometimes in Lightroom we generally go straight when we have to edit an image. We go into the basics tab here and do, for example, do highlights and shadows and so on and so forth. Well, you will notice that let me just turn that off, just not to confuse you. We have some other options to do this. For example, to correct those things here and the exposure by going to here. Look at that. I've got, when I put my cursor here, I've got the blacks, I've got shadows, I've got exposure, I've got the highlights, and I've got my whites. In fact, you can do those corrections here itself in that place here in the histogram. Generally the histogram will show you your shadows, will show you your mid-tone and your highlights in your images, but you can do some kind of adjustments here. Look at that. For example, I have the impression that this image is a little bit too much overexposed. So what I can do, I can come here and I can push this here, push this to the left, sorry, and I can decrease that. But you will see some kind of clipping, we call that clipping, on those borders. I will come here in the blacks and I will try to push this to the right. You can see, look at that. I will come here in here on this side here on the whites, and I will try to push this in so that I can have some kind of better and more balanced image. And I can touch the exposure just a little bit, and I'm done with this image. And I did this correction here. I could have done this down here, but using only the histogram, I can do this. Let's go to the next thing here. My image looks like this, but by working with the tone curve, I can add a little bit more contrast with this image. But before doing that, let me explain here. What you're seeing here is the tonal values in your image. To put simply, and not to be that technical, this represents the shadows or the blacks in your image, and this represents the whites or the highlights in your image. For example, if I push this up here, I will have a completely white image. If I push this down here, I will have a completely black image. So by adjusting this curve, I can affect the amount of shadows and highlight I've got in my image. Look at that. We will try to create what we call this S-curve thing that you might have heard a lot of photographers talk about. So to do that, I will click here to add a point. I will add another point here, and I will add another point here. Then I push this just a little bit like this, and then I will push this one just a little bit like this. Look at that. I've got a better image. I've got a more beautiful image. This was the before. Here is the before on the left. Here is the after on the right. Really pop, beautiful, and you did that just with the tone curve. Okay, and let's talk about now vignetting. Sometimes you might want to add some vignetting in your image to pull the eye of the viewer more in the image. To do that, you just come here to the effects tab, and you have your vignette, post cropping vignette. You just move this down a little bit like this, and you've got your vignette. Before, after, before, after. Okay, that was it for those 5 Lightroom tips for today. If you like this video, hit the like button. Don't forget to leave a comment if you have something to say about this. And don't forget also to subscribe. We have new videos every week. Until next time, guys, I'll be seeing you. Bye-bye.